Captain Minho Kim stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, watching the alien homeworld grow larger on the main screen. The planet looked beautiful from space, with purple oceans and golden continents. After 2 years of traveling through deep space, they had finally reached the Vorthak Empire's main world. "Sir, we're getting a signal from the planet," said Do-Yun Choi from his position at the communication station. The young officer had been excited about this mission since they left Earth. This was humanity's 8th first contact with an alien species, and so far, all previous meetings had gone well. Minho nodded. "Put it on screen." The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge go quiet. The Vorthak were tall, at least 8 feet high, with dark gray skin that looked like metal. Their faces had no nose, just 2 holes, and their eyes were completely black. Sharp teeth filled their mouths when they spoke. "Human vessel," the alien said in perfect English. "I am War Prime Thexvar of the Vorthak Empire. We welcome you to our space." Minho stepped forward. "Thank you, War Prime. I am Captain Minho Kim of Earth. We're honored to meet your people." Yunbi Park, the ship's chief science officer, was scanning the alien vessel that had appeared beside them. The Vorthak ship was huge, almost 10 times the size of the Harmony. Its surface was covered in weapons that looked more advanced than anything humans had ever built. "Captain," Yunbi whispered, "their ship's technology is incredible. The power readings are off our charts." Jiwon Lee, the tactical officer, was also worried. "Sir, I count over 300 weapon systems on that ship. They could destroy us in seconds," but Minho stayed calm. Every first contact was dangerous. The key was to show respect and peaceful intentions. So far, the Vorthak seemed friendly enough. "War Prime," Minho said, "we would be honored to meet in person and discuss peaceful relations between our peoples." The alien's mouth moved in what might have been a smile, but it looked more like a threat. "Yes, Captain Kim, please bring 5 of your crew to our ship. We will show you the greatness of the Vorthak Empire." 2 hours later, Minho, Yunbi, Jiwon, Do-Hyun, and medical officer Yejin Han were walking through the corridors of the Vorthak ship. The walls were made of the same dark metal as the alien's skin, and everything was huge, built for beings much larger than humans. War Prime Thexvar led them through the ship, showing them various rooms and technologies. The Vorthak had faster-than-light travel that was centuries ahead of human technology. Their computers could think faster than any AI Earth had ever built. Their weapons could destroy entire cities with a single shot. "Your species is very young," Thexvar said as they walked. "Humans have only been in space for a few hundred years. The Vorthak Empire has ruled this part of the galaxy for over 50,000 years. "That's amazing," Yunbi said, trying to be polite. "You must have learned so much in all that time." "Oh yes," the War Prime replied. "We have learned many things about the other species in this galaxy." They entered a large room that looked like a ceremony hall. Dozens of other Vorthak were waiting there, all wearing what looked like military uniforms. The humans were led to a platform in the center of the room. "Before we begin formal relations," Thexvar announced to the room, "these humans should understand what the Vorthak Empire truly represents." Suddenly, the friendly atmosphere changed. The Vorthak around them pulled out weapons that looked like energy rifles. The humans found themselves surrounded. "What's going on?" Minho demanded, but he kept his voice steady. "You will understand soon," Thexvar said. "First, let me show you something." The lights dimmed and a large screen appeared on the wall. The image that appeared made Yejin Han gasp in horror. It showed a room full of cages, but these cages didn't hold animals. They held people, aliens from different species that the humans didn't recognize. The creatures in the cages looked terrible. They were thin and weak, clearly not getting enough food. Many had wounds that weren't being treated. Some were missing arms or legs. In the corner of the screen, Vorthak scientists were taking one of the prisoners out of a cage. "These are our test subjects," Thexvar explained casually. "We study other species to understand their weaknesses. This knowledge helps us rule more effectively." On the screen, the Vorthak scientists strapped the alien prisoner to a table. They began cutting into its body while it was still awake and screaming. The creature's cries of pain filled the ceremony hall. "Stop this!" Junbi shouted, but Thexvar just laughed. "Why would we stop? These creatures exist for our use, just as your species will soon exist for our use." The screen showed more horrible scenes. Rooms full of alien children being separated from their parents. Vorthak soldiers shooting unarmed civilians for sport. Entire cities being destroyed just to test new weapons. "We have conquered 47 different species completely," Thexvar continued proudly. They no longer exist. We have enslaved hundreds of others. Their planets now serve the Vorthak Empire. Do-hyun was secretly recording everything with a hidden device in his uniform. The images were being transmitted back to the Harmony automatically. "You're monsters," Ji-won said, her hand moving toward her weapon. "We are superior," HFY corrected. "Might makes right in this galaxy. The strong rule the weak. This is the natural order." The War Prime gestured to his soldiers. "Take the humans to the holding cells. We will study them before we conquer their species." But Minho had been ready for something like this. All human diplomats carried emergency teleporters in case first contact went wrong. He pressed the hidden button on his belt. "Now," he shouted. 5 pillars of light appeared around the humans. The Vorthak weapons fired, but the energy beams passed harmlessly through the teleportation field. In seconds, the human team was back on the Harmony. "Emergency departure," Minho ordered as soon as they appeared on the bridge. "Maximum speed." The Harmony's engines roared to life. The ship turned away from the Vorthak homeworld and jumped to faster-than-light speed just as the alien warships began pursuing them. As they traveled back toward human space, the crew was quiet. They had all seen the recordings that Do-hyun had made. The images of torture, murder, and genocide would stay with them forever. "Captain," Yunbi said finally, "we have to warn everyone. The other species in the Federation need to know what the Vorthak are really like." Minho nodded, but his face was grim. "We will, but I don't think warnings will be enough." He looked at the recordings again. 47 species completely destroyed. Millions of people suffering in Vorthak camps. Children being murdered for scientific experiments. "Ji-won," he said to his tactical officer, "send a message to Earth Defense Command. Tell them we need to talk to the Admiral immediately." "What should I tell them the message is about, sir?" Minho watched the images of Vorthak cruelty playing on the screen. "Tell them we've found a species that needs to be stopped. Whatever it takes." Admiral Sun Woo-han sat in the emergency meeting room at Earth Defense Command, watching the recordings from the Harmony for the 3rd time. Around the table sat the most important people in human government and military. Everyone was completely silent. The images were worse than any horror movie ever made. The Vorthak scientists cutting open living prisoners, children being separated from their parents forever. Entire cities being destroyed just to test weapons. Admiral Han had fought in 3 wars during his career, but nothing had prepared him for this. "How many species did they say they completely destroyed?" asked President Hyeri Moon. 47, replied Dr. Yuna Shin, head of the Xenobiology Institute. "And that's just what they admitted to. The real number could be much higher." Dr. Shin had been studying the recordings for days. Her team had identified at least 12 different alien species in the Vorthak prison camps. Some looked almost human, with 2 arms and 2 legs. Others were completely different, like the crystal beings that seemed to be made of living glass. "What about the Galactic Federation?" asked General Kyung-soo Lim. "Do they know about this?" Captain Min-ho Kim, who had returned to Earth immediately after the incident, shook his head. "The other Federation species are all afraid of the Vorthak. They've been losing colonies and people for years, but they thought it was just normal territorial expansion." "Normal?" President Moon looked angry. "There's nothing normal about genocide. The Vorthak are much more advanced than anyone else in the Federation," Minho explained. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Most species think fighting them would be suicide." Dr. Shin brought up more data on the main screen. "I've been analyzing their ships and weapons from the recordings. The Vorthak Empire probably has over 10,000 warships. Each one could destroy an entire human fleet. So what you're telling me," Admiral Han said slowly, "is that we've discovered a species that commits genocide for fun, and they're too powerful for anyone to stop them." "That's what everyone else thinks," Minho replied. "But I don't think they understand humans very well." Before anyone could respond, an aide rushed into the room. "Admiral, sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Vorthak Empire. They say it's for all species in the Federation." "Put it on screen," Admiral Han ordered. The image that appeared made everyone in the room go cold. War Prime Thexvar stood in front of a massive crowd of alien prisoners. There were thousands of them. Men, women, children from dozens of different species. They all looked terrified. "People of the Galactic Federation," Thexvar announced. "The humans have seen the true power of the Vorthak Empire. They know that resistance is useless. To demonstrate this truth, we will now execute 10,000 prisoners." "No," Dr. Shin whispered. The screen showed Vorthak soldiers moving through the crowd with energy weapons. They began shooting the prisoners randomly. A small alien child that looked almost like a human baby was crying for its mother. A Vorthak soldier walked over and shot it in the head. President Moon stood up from her chair. "Turn it off. Ma'am, we need to turn it off," she shouted. The screen went black, but everyone in the room could still hear the sounds of weapons firing and people screaming. When it finally stopped, the room was completely quiet. "They're broadcasting this to the entire galaxy," Admiral Han said. "They want everyone to know that opposing them is hopeless." Dr. Shin was crying. As a scientist, she had always believed that intelligent life was precious. The idea that someone would murder children just to send a message was beyond her understanding. "What did the other Federation species say?" General Lim asked. "The Zephyrians sent a message of protest," Minho replied. "The Crystal Collective offered to mediate. The Aquatic Union suggested we try economic sanctions." "Economic sanctions," Admiral Han repeated, "against a species that just murdered 10,000 prisoners on live television." "They don't understand," President Moon said. "None of them understand. This isn't politics or territory or resources. This is pure evil." General Lim was studying tactical displays on his personal tablet. "Admiral, if we mobilized our entire fleet, how many ships could we put together?" "Maybe 2,000 warships," Admiral Han replied, "plus support vessels." "But Dr. Shin is right. The Vorthak technology is far superior to ours." "Superior technology didn't help them against the humans in the recordings," General Lim pointed out. "Captain Kim's team escaped. We had teleporters," Minho said. "And we surprised them. In a real battle with their full fleet, we would lose," Admiral Han finished. "They're too strong." Dr. Shin looked up from her tablet. "Admiral, I've been thinking about something. The Vorthak have been expanding for 50,000 years. They've conquered dozens of species, but they've never faced humans before." "What do you mean?" "Every species they've fought has been similar to them. Hierarchical societies, individual combat, traditional military tactics. But humans are different." President Moon leaned forward. "How are we different?" "We work together in ways other species don't," Dr. Shin explained. "When the Zephyrians face a threat, their nobles argue about who should lead the response. When the Crystal Collective faces danger, they meditate for months before acting. But when humans face a threat, we unite," General Lim said, understanding. "Every human everywhere focuses on destroying that threat. The Vorthak think they've seen everything the galaxy can throw at them," Dr. Shin continued. "But they've never seen 6 billion humans who are all angry about the same thing." Admiral Han was quiet for a long moment. "You're talking about total war." "I'm talking about survival," President Moon replied. "If we don't stop the Vorthak, they'll eventually come for Earth. And when they do, every human will end up in one of those camps." The room was silent as everyone thought about that. Images of human children in Vorthak laboratories, human cities being destroyed for sport, human prisoners being tortured to death on live television. "There's something else," Minho said. "The other Federation species have been fighting defensive wars against the Vorthak, trying to protect their territory and minimize losses." "What's wrong with that?" General Lim asked. "You can't win a defensive war against an enemy that enjoys killing," Minho replied. "The Vorthak don't care about territory or resources. They care about dominating and torturing other species. The only way to stop them is to destroy them completely." Dr. Shin brought up more recordings on her tablet. "I've been studying their society. The Vorthak don't just conquer other species, they erase them. They destroy their art, their culture, their history. They want to remove all evidence that other species ever existed. Cultural genocide," President Moon said. "They're not just killing people. They're killing entire civilizations." Admiral Han stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the lights of the capital city. Millions of people going about their normal lives, not knowing that somewhere in space, children were being tortured by monsters. "If we do this," he said finally, "it won't be like our previous wars. We can't capture Vorthak prisoners and treat them humanely. We can't offer them surrender terms. We can't show mercy. Why not?" Dr. Shin asked. Admiral Han turned back to the room. "Because they've proven that they don't deserve any of those things. A species that commits genocide forfeits its right to exist." General Lim was already working on his tablet. "I'll start mobilizing our forces. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have." "What about the Federation?" President Moon asked. "Do we tell them what we're planning?" We tell them we're going to stop the Vorthak, Admiral Han replied. We don't tell them how. Dr. Shin looked worried. Admiral, the other species might try to stop us. They think total war is immoral. Let them try, Admiral Han said. They can explain to the 10,000 prisoners who died today why the Vorthak deserved to live. As the meeting broke up, everyone knew that human history was about to change forever. For the first time since leaving Earth, humanity was going to war not for territory or resources, but for something much more important. They were going to war for the right of intelligent life to exist without fear. The news of the Vorthak atrocities spread across human space like wildfire. On every human world, in every space station, in every colony, people watched the recordings that Captain Minho Kim had brought back. The images of genocide and torture sparked something in humanity that no alien species had ever seen before. Hyun Jo was a military strategist on Mars when she first saw the footage. She had been working on peaceful exploration plans, mapping out trade routes with friendly alien species. But when she watched a Vorthak soldier torture a child that looked almost like her younger brother, something inside her changed forever. We need to kill them all, she said to her colleague, Taehyung Nam, every single one of them. Taehyung, who worked as a diplomatic advisor, was shocked by her words. Hyun, we can't just murder an entire species. That makes us no better than them. No, Hyun replied, watching the recordings again. What makes us no better than them is if we let this continue. How many more children have to die while we worry about being moral? The same conversation was happening on every human world. People who had never thought about war were suddenly demanding military action. Peaceful protesters were joining the army. Scientists were volunteering to design weapons. On Luna Base, Dr. Seojin Kang was working in his physics laboratory when the call came. The military wanted him to design something they called a Nova bomb, a weapon that could destroy entire fleets at once. I became a scientist to help people, he told his assistant. I never wanted to build weapons. Dr. Kang, his assistant, replied, Look at the screen. The laboratory monitor was showing more footage from Vorthak camps, aliens being experimented on while they were still alive, parents watching their children being murdered, entire families being torn apart for the entertainment of their captors. Dr. Kang stared at the images for a long time. How long do they need the Nova bomb? 6 months, sir. They'll have it in 3. The same scene was playing out across human civilization. Every factory, every shipyard, every research facility was converting to military production. Ships that had been designed for exploration were being rebuilt as warships. Colonies that had focused on farming were now manufacturing weapons. General Kyung-Soo Lim had never seen anything like it. In his 40 years of military service, he had always struggled to get funding and resources. Governments preferred to spend money on peaceful projects. But now, every human government was offering unlimited resources for the war effort. Sir, his aide reported, we've received volunteer applications from every human colony. Even the pacifist settlements want to help. How many total? Over 2 billion people, sir. We don't have enough ships to transport them all. General Lim looked at the numbers on his screen. 2 billion volunteers for a war against an enemy that was supposedly unbeatable. The Vorthak had no idea what they had started, but not everyone agreed with the war plans. Ambassador Taehyung Nam was meeting with representatives from other Federation species, trying to find a peaceful solution. The humans are talking about genocide, the Zephyrian ambassador said. This goes against everything the Federation stands for. The Vorthak are committing genocide right now, Taehyung replied. They've been doing it for thousands of years. Where was the Federation then? We tried diplomatic solutions, the Crystal Collective representative said. Violence only leads to more violence. Taehyung brought up the recordings on the meeting room screen. Tell that to these children. Tell that to the 47 species that no longer exist. The other ambassadors looked uncomfortable. They had all seen the footage, but they preferred to think of it as a political problem that could be solved through negotiation. The Vorthak are too powerful, the Aquatic Union delegate said. Even if we all worked together, we couldn't defeat them militarily. You're right, Taehyung agreed. You couldn't, but humans aren't like other species. What do you mean? When you face a threat, you argue about it. You form committees. You write reports. You look for compromise. But when humans face a threat to innocent life, we don't argue. We don't compromise. we destroy that threat completely. Meanwhile, on Earth, a young woman named Minha Song was making a decision that would have been impossible just weeks before. Minha had been a peace activist her entire life. She had protested every human military action, believing that violence was never the answer to any problem. But now she was standing in a military recruitment office. "Are you sure about this?" the recruitment officer asked. "Your background check shows you've been arrested 12 times for protesting military actions." "I was wrong," Minha replied simply. "I thought all conflicts could be solved peacefully. But I've seen what the Vorthak do to peaceful people." "What changed your mind?" Minha pulled up a recording on her tablet. It showed a Vorthak camp where aliens were being forced to fight each other for food. The losers were fed to the winners. "Some things are so evil that the only moral response is to destroy them completely," she said. "I want to help do that." The recruitment officer nodded and handed her the enlistment papers. "Welcome to the Human Defense Force." While humans prepared for war, the Vorthak were making their own plans. War Prime Thexvar was meeting with his military commanders on their homeworld. "The humans are mobilizing their entire civilization," one commander reported. "Our spies report that they're building weapons we've never seen before." Thexvar laughed. "Let them build whatever they want. Primitive technology cannot defeat superior beings. Sir, should we strike first? Destroy Earth before they can attack us?" "No," Thexvar replied. "Let them come. When we defeat their entire fleet in one battle, every species in the galaxy will understand that resistance is truly hopeless." The War Prime brought up tactical displays showing human military assets. "They have perhaps 2,000 ships. We have 10,000. Their weapons are centuries behind ours. Their military doctrine is based on fighting other humans, not superior alien forces." "What about their civilian population, sir? Should we prepare to harvest them?" "Of course. 6 billion humans will provide excellent test subjects for our scientists, and the public execution of their leaders will be broadcast to every world in the galaxy." The Vorthak commanders all agreed that the humans would be easy to defeat. They had conquered species with far better technology and military traditions. Humans had been in space for less than 300 years. They were young, weak, and unprepared for real war. But they were wrong about one thing. The Vorthak thought humans would fight like other species they had conquered, with limited goals, defensive strategies, and concern for minimizing casualties. They didn't understand that humans had seen the recordings from the camps. They didn't know that every human civilian was now a volunteer soldier. They couldn't comprehend that an entire species could unite around a single goal, the complete destruction of the Vorthak Empire. The war was about to begin, and only one species truly understood what that meant. 6 months after the first contact incident, Admiral Sun Wuhan stood on the bridge of the flagship UES Retribution. Around him, the largest fleet in human history was preparing to enter Vorthak space. "Admiral," Captain Woojin Park reported, "all ships are ready for combat operations." Admiral Han looked at the tactical display. 3,000 human warships equipped with weapons that had been designed specifically to kill Vorthak. Behind them, support fleets carrying the Nova bombs that Dr. Seojin Kang had created. "Open a channel to all ships," Admiral Han ordered. Across the fleet, over 1 million human soldiers and crew members listened as their commander spoke. "Today, we begin the war to end the Vorthak Empire," Admiral Han announced. "They think they know what war is. They think they understand violence, but they've never fought humans before." He paused, thinking about the recordings they had all seen. The children in the camps, the torture chambers, the 47 extinct species. The Vorthak wanted to see what happens when humanity gets angry. Today they learn. The siege of the Vorthak homeworld began 3 weeks after the war started. By then, the Vorthak Empire had been reduced to a handful of systems around their original planet. Every other world had been liberated by human forces, or was in open rebellion against Vorthak rule. Admiral Sun Wuhan stood on the bridge of the Retribution, looking at the planet that had been the center of galactic evil for 50 millennia. The world looked peaceful from space with its purple oceans and golden continents. But everyone in the human fleet knew what horrors lay beneath that beautiful surface. "Sir," Captain Woojin Park reported, "all Liberation fleets have reported mission complete. The last Vorthak prison camps have been freed. Casualties. Among the prisoners? Over 4 million aliens rescued alive. But sir," Captain Park's voice became grim, "we found evidence of at least 20 million more who were killed in the camps during the war. The Vorthak executed prisoners rather than let us free them. Admiral Han closed his eyes for a moment. 20 million innocent beings murdered just to spite their liberators. Every report from the rescued camps made the same thing clear. The Vorthak were not capable of redemption. Dr. Shin, he said into his communicator, what's the status of the biological weapon? Dr. Yuna Shin's voice came through clearly from her laboratory ship. The genetic targeting system is complete, Admiral. We can deploy it whenever you give the order. The weapon Dr. Shin had created was precise beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. It would target only Vorthak DNA, leaving every other species completely unharmed. Within days of deployment, every Vorthak in the galaxy would simply stop existing. Are you certain it won't affect other species? Admiral Han asked. Completely certain, sir. We've tested it on genetic samples from every known alien species. Only Vorthak biology will be affected. On the planet below, War Prime Thexvar was making his final preparations. The Vorthak homeworld had been turned into a fortress, with energy shields covering the entire planet and weapon systems that could destroy approaching fleets. But Thexvar was no longer confident of victory. Reports from across the Empire had shown him something impossible. Humans fought wars differently than any species he had ever encountered. Sir, his aide reported, the humans are sending another transmission. Put it through. The image that appeared was Admiral Han, standing in what looked like one of the liberated prison camps. Behind him, aliens from dozens of species were being treated by human medical teams. War Prime Thexvar, Admiral Han began. I'm standing in what used to be Camp 74. My doctors tell me that over 500,000 beings died here during the past 1,000 years. Men, women, children from 40 different species, all tortured to death for your entertainment. The Admiral gestured to the facility around him. We found detailed records of every experiment you conducted, every torture session, every murder. You kept videos of children begging for their lives while your scientists cut them apart. Thexvar felt something he had never experienced before. Shame. Not for what he had done, but because someone weaker was judging him. This is what's going to happen, Admiral Han continued. We're going to land on your planet and hunt down every single Vorthak in the galaxy. Not for conquest, not for territory, not for resources, but because a species that commits genocide doesn't deserve to exist. The transmission ended, and Thexvar was left staring at a blank screen. Colonel Min Jae-yoon was leading the first wave of human ground forces to the planet's surface. His soldiers had been training for urban combat against an enemy that was physically superior in every way. The Vorthak were stronger, faster, and more heavily armed than humans, but they had never fought an enemy that was angrier. Remember, Colonel Yoon told his troops as their assault ships entered the atmosphere, every Vorthak you see has participated in genocide. Every single one of them has tortured innocent beings for fun. Show them exactly as much mercy as they showed those children. The landing was opposed by heavy Vorthak forces. Their energy weapons could cut through human armor, and their physical strength made them dangerous in close combat. But human tactics were designed around fighting superior individual opponents. Squad Alpha, pin them down with suppressing fire, Colonel Yoon ordered. Squad Beta flank left. Squad Gamma prepare Nova charges. The battle for the Vorthak capital city lasted for 6 days. Street by street, building by building, human soldiers advanced through a city that had been the seat of galactic evil for millennia. Every block they captured revealed more evidence of Vorthak cruelty. Engineer Hyejin Chai was part of the team that discovered the Vorthak genetic laboratories. What they found inside made even hardened soldiers vomit. Thousands of alien beings had been kept alive for years while Vorthak scientists conducted experiments that served no purpose except to cause maximum suffering. Colonel, she reported over the radio, we need medical teams in the laboratory district immediately. There are still prisoners alive down here. How many? Maybe 300. But sir, what they did to these people. Some of them might be better off if we just put them out of their misery. Negative, Colonel Yoon replied immediately. We save everyone we can. That's what makes us different from them. But the liberation of the prisoners revealed the true scope of Vorthak evil. Many of the aliens had been surgically modified to experience enhanced pain. Others had been psychologically broken by years of torture. Some begged the human soldiers to kill them rather than try to heal them. Dr. Yuna Shin worked around the clock to find ways to help the rescued prisoners. But many of the modifications the Vorthak had made were irreversible. Entire nervous systems had been rewired to maximize suffering. "Admiral," she reported to Admiral Han, "I need authorization to deploy the biological weapon immediately. Dr. Shin, we're still fighting on the planet's surface. If we deploy now, it might affect our own troops. Sir, I've been treating prisoners from the Vorthak laboratories for 3 days. What they did to these people? Admiral, we found children who have been kept alive in agony for decades. Some of them are begging us to kill them because the pain is too much to bear." Admiral Han was quiet for a long moment. "How long until the weapon takes effect?" 72 hours after deployment. Any human forces on the planet will need to evacuate. Do it. The biological weapon was deployed from orbit 6 hours later. Dr. Shin had designed it to spread through the atmosphere like a virus, but it would only activate when it encountered Vorthak DNA. For 3 days, the fighting continued on the planet's surface. Human soldiers advanced through a city where their enemies were slowly beginning to weaken and die. The Vorthak fought desperately, knowing that surrender was not an option. On the final day, Colonel Yoon reached the center of the Vorthak capital. War Prime Thexvar was waiting for him in the main government building, surrounded by the last few dozen Vorthak soldiers. "Human," Thexvar said, his voice already weak from the biological weapon, "you have doomed your own species. When the galaxy sees what you have done, they will unite against you." "Let them," Colonel Yoon replied. "At least the galaxy will know that someone was willing to stop you." Thexvar laughed, but it turned into a cough that brought up black blood. "You think you are heroes, but you are murderers just like us." "No," Colonel Yoon said, raising his weapon. "We're nothing like you. You killed innocents for pleasure. We killed you for justice. The last war prime of the Vorthak Empire died on the floor of his own throne room, shot by a human soldier who had seen what his species did to children. Within hours, the biological weapon had completed its work. Every Vorthak in the galaxy was dead. 50,000 years of galactic terror had ended in 72 hours. Admiral Han stood in the ruins of the Vorthak capital, officially declaring the complete extinction of the species that had thought itself superior to all others. Around him, human soldiers were working to care for the liberated prisoners and document the evidence of Vorthak crimes. "This is Admiral Sunwoo, Han of the Human Defense Force," he announced, in a message that was broadcast to every world in the galaxy. "The Vorthak Empire no longer exists. Every member of their species has been eliminated. The 47 species they destroyed cannot be brought back. But their suffering has been avenged." He paused, looking at the camera with eyes that had seen too much horror. "Let this serve as a warning to any species that believes might makes right. Humanity will not tolerate genocide." The Vorthak learned this lesson too late. The war was over. An entire species had been eliminated from the galaxy forever, and for the first time in 50,000 years, the innocent could sleep without fear. The war began at exactly 0600 Galactic Standard Time, with the largest coordinated military strike in recorded history. Admiral Sun Wuhan had spent months planning this moment. While the Vorthak expected humans to attack their homeworld directly, the human fleet struck everywhere at once. "All units, commence Operation Cleansing Fire," Admiral Han announced from the bridge of the Retribution. Across Vorthak space, human ships emerged from faster-than-light travel simultaneously. Captain Woojin Park led the assault on the main Vorthak naval base near their homeworld. Commander Soyoung Kim attacked their weapons manufacturing facilities. Colonel Min Jae-yoon's ground forces hit their prison camps to free the alien captives. The Vorthak had never experienced anything like this. For 50,000 years, they had fought wars against species that attacked one target at a time, trying to minimize casualties and limit destruction. But humans had a different approach entirely. "Sir," the tactical officer on Woojin Park's ship reported. "Vorthak fleet moving to intercept us. 40 ships incoming." "Perfect," Captain Park replied. "Let's show them what humans learned from studying their technology." The Vorthak warships were massive and heavily armed, but they were built for fighting species that used similar tactics to their own. Their shields were designed to stop energy weapons and projectile rounds. They had never encountered Nova bombs. Dr. Seojin Kang's weapons were based on a simple principle that the Vorthak had overlooked. Instead of trying to break through their shields with brute force, the Nova bombs created tiny black holes that lasted for exactly 3 seconds. Just long enough to tear apart anything within 1,000 kilometers. Launching Nova bombs, the weapons officer announced. The Vorthak fleet commander was confident as he watched the human weapons approach. The small missiles looked primitive compared to Vorthak technology. He ordered his ships to maintain course, expecting their shields to easily stop the attack. He realized his mistake too late. The Nova bombs detonated in perfect formation around the Vorthak fleet. For 3 seconds, miniature black holes twisted space itself into knots. When the effect ended, 40 Vorthak warships had been reduced to scattered atoms. My God, someone whispered on Captain Park's bridge. They're just gone. The same scene was playing out across the Vorthak Empire. Human forces struck 847 military targets simultaneously, destroying the bulk of the Vorthak Navy in the first hour of combat. Bases that had protected Vorthak space for millennia were wiped out before they could send distress signals. On the Vorthak homeworld, War Prime Thexvar watched his military crumble in real time. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Humans are primitive. Their technology is inferior." "Sir," his aide reported, "we're receiving casualty reports from across the Empire. Over 6,000 ships destroyed. All major bases are gone. The prison camps. The humans are attacking the prison camps." "Why would they attack the camps? The prisoners are worthless." But Thexvar didn't understand humans yet. To the Vorthak, other species were just resources to be used and discarded. But humans saw those prisoners as people who needed to be saved. Colonel Min Jae-yoon led the assault on Camp 7, one of the largest Vorthak prison facilities. His soldiers had trained for this mission using recordings from Captain Kim's first contact incident. They knew exactly what they would find inside. "Remember," Colonel Yoon told his troops as their ships approached the camp, "our primary mission is to save the prisoners. Kill any Vorthak who try to stop us, but protect the civilians at all costs." The camp was built like a fortress, with energy shields and automated weapons protecting it from attack. But the Vorthak had designed these defenses to stop other alien species, not humans. "Launching EMP charges," the assault team leader reported. The electromagnetic pulse weapons were another human innovation that the Vorthak hadn't expected. Instead of trying to break through their shields, the EMP charges shut down the power systems that generated them. In seconds, the camp's defenses went dark. Human soldiers poured into the facility. What they found inside made even battle-hardened veterans sick. Thousands of aliens from dozens of species were crammed into cages barely large enough for their bodies. Many were missing limbs. Others showed signs of surgical experimentation. "Medical teams to Section 4. Colonel Yoon called over the radio. "We have civilians who need immediate treatment." But the Vorthak guards weren't planning to surrender. They began executing prisoners as the humans advanced, trying to deny their enemies any victory. That was their final mistake. The human soldiers who witnessed Vorthak guards murdering defenseless prisoners stopped thinking about rules of engagement or military protocol. They began killing every Vorthak in the facility with a fury that shocked even their own officers. "Yoon to all units," the colonel broadcast. "No Vorthak prisoners, no exceptions." Within 6 hours of the war's beginning, the balance of power in the galaxy had completely shifted. The Vorthak Empire, which had seemed invincible for millennia, was collapsing everywhere at once. Dr. Yuna Shin was monitoring the battle from Earth, analyzing the biological samples that rescue teams were collecting from the prison camps. What she found made her realize that the Vorthak were even worse than they had imagined. "Admiral," she reported to Admiral Han via secure communication, "the genetic samples from the camp show that the Vorthak have been experimenting on prisoners for thousands of years. They've been trying to create hybrid species for use as biological weapons." "What kind of experiments?" "They've been mixing DNA from different species to create beings that feel more pain, live longer during torture, or have enhanced fear responses." The Vorthak haven't just been committing genocide. They've been trying to create new species specifically designed to suffer. Admiral Han was quiet for a long moment. "Dr. Shin, I want you to begin work on a biological weapon." "Sir?" "Something that targets Vorthak DNA specifically. If they want to play with genetics, we'll show them what human scientists can do." "Admiral, a biological weapon that targets a specific species. That's exactly what the Vorthak have been trying to create." "The difference," Admiral Han replied, "is that we're going to use it on a species that deserves to be extinct." Meanwhile, other Federation species were watching the war with a mixture of awe and horror. The Zephyrian government called an emergency meeting to discuss the human military campaign. They're not fighting a war, the Zephyrian Prime Minister said. They're conducting an extermination. The humans are violating every rule of galactic warfare, the Crystal Collective representative agreed. They're not taking prisoners. They're destroying civilian targets. They're using weapons that cause unnecessary suffering. Unnecessary suffering. Ambassador Taehyung Nam had been listening to the criticism with growing anger. Let me show you unnecessary suffering. He activated a holographic display showing recent footage from the rescued prison camps. Alien children who had been surgically modified for the entertainment of Vorthak scientists. Prisoners who had been kept alive for years while being slowly dissected. The Vorthak have been doing this for 50,000 years, Taehyung said. Where were your rules of warfare then? Where was your concern for civilian targets when entire species were being wiped out? The other ambassadors had no answer. Humans don't fight wars to score political points or gain territory, Taehyung continued. When we fight, it's because something evil needs to be destroyed completely. The Vorthak chose to be evil. Now they get to learn what happens when humans decide you don't deserve to exist. Back in Vorthak space, the Empire was beginning to understand the true scope of human capabilities. Every species they had conquered was rising in rebellion, aided by human weapons and technology. Worlds that had been enslaved for centuries were declaring independence. War Prime Thexvar made one final attempt to negotiate. He sent a message to the human fleet offering to release all prisoners and pay reparations for past actions. Admiral Han's response was broadcast to every ship in both fleets. You wanted to show the galaxy what happens when superior beings encounter inferior ones. Consider this your education, the message was, followed by another coordinated strike that destroyed the remaining Vorthak defenses around their homeworld. As human ships began their final approach to the Vorthak home system, the aliens finally understood what they were facing. This wasn't a war in any sense they recognized. This was an execution. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Vorthak were afraid. And they were right to be afraid, because humanity had seen what they did to children, and nothing in the galaxy was going to save them from the consequences.